On the surface, it was a night of joy and celebration, but by morning, it would become the start of a mystery that would leave an entire community searching for answers. It was October 13th, 2022, when Darren Mosley made a call to 911 at exactly 6:38 a.m. from his home on Lark Street in St. Paul, Minnesota. His wife, 37-year-old Tracy Mosley, was missing. Darren, 40, told officers that the previous night had been quiet. The couple had shared dinner at home to mark a big moment in Darren's life, a promotion at Windmere Equity, the investment firm where he'd worked for more than 10 years. According to him, they went to bed just after midnight, but when he woke up around 6 a.m., Tracy was gone. Her personal items, wallet, phone, car keys were missing, along with their silver 2013 Toyota Prius. There were no broken locks or open windows, and the house appeared undisturbed. Officers, trusting Darren's account, didn't perform a full search of the home and initially categorized the case as a possible voluntary disappearance. By mid-morning, Tracy had been entered into Minnesota's missing persons system, and a BOLO, be on the lookout, was issued for both her and the Prius. As local news picked up the story, Darren made a public statement in front of the police station. Choking up in front of reporters, he pleaded for help from the public. "Tracy, if you're out there, please come home. We're all really worried," he said. His emotional plea aired on TV and quickly spread online. Flyers with Tracy's photo and the car's details were posted throughout St. Paul and neighboring towns. Detectives began combing through footage from traffic and toll cameras, hoping to spot her vehicle. Meanwhile, Tracy's loved ones were contacted. Her friends and relatives painted a picture of a responsible and devoted mother to her 8-year-old daughter, Isla. She wasn't the type to disappear without a word. And notably, Tracy had made arrangements for Isla to spend the night at her sister Jasmine's home so she and Darren could enjoy the evening uninterrupted. Jasmine later told police that she spoke with Tracy by phone that night. While Tracy didn't say anything alarming, Jasmine recalled she seemed distant, distracted even, but nothing stood out as a red flag. The first major clue surfaced when detectives pulled phone records. Tracy's final outgoing message was a text to her mother sent at 10:24 p.m. the night she vanished. It read, "He says it's already done. I feel numb." Just one sentence, but it raised serious questions. What was already done? And why did she feel numb? After that text, Tracy's phone went completely silent. No calls, no messages, no data usage. Investigators found no security footage showing her car leaving the area, and no traffic or freeway cameras picked up a match. It was as if she and the Prius had simply vanished. At that point, the case was still treated as a disappearance. There were no signs of a struggle, and no suspects had been named. Darren remained cooperative, even sitting down for a voluntary interview. In it, he suggested that Tracy may have left to clear her head, citing stress from work and parenting responsibilities. "She's been carrying a lot lately," he explained. "Maybe she just needed a break." But behind closed doors, detectives were starting to look deeper. Some officers noted a disconnect between Darren's heartfelt public appearance and his more restrained demeanor during private discussions. Combined with Tracy's final cryptic message, this discrepancy pushed investigators to expand their scope. By October 15th, 2 days since Tracy's disappearance, there were still no confirmed sightings, no bank activity, and no digital trail. The search was entering a critical phase. What began as a simple missing person report was now under careful scrutiny, and authorities were beginning to wonder if this disappearance was truly what it seemed, or if something much more calculated had taken place. As the days ticked by with no sign of Tracy Mosley or her car, the St. Paul Police Department widened its investigation. Flyers blanketed neighborhoods, and authorities closely monitored her bank accounts, phone activity, and any trace she might have left behind. But nothing emerged until a call came in from Crow Wing County, nearly 150 miles north of St. Paul. On the morning of October 16th, a group of hikers exploring Cross Lake State Park stumbled upon an abandoned vehicle deep in the woods, tucked away along a rarely used logging trail. The silver Toyota Prius matched the one listed in the missing person bulletin. It was unlocked. Inside, deputies found a purse containing Tracy's ID and several of her personal items resting on the front passenger seat. There was no obvious damage to the car, no cell phone, and an unusual detail immediately caught officers' attention. The driver's seat had been pushed noticeably far back, farther than someone of Tracy's height would likely need. A lone cigarette butt in the console was taken into evidence for DNA analysis. While officers were surveying the area, one of the hikers mentioned a foul smell coming from near a shallow stream about 40 yards from the car. Police marked the location, returning early the next morning to begin a detailed ground search. What they found changed everything. Hidden in a densely wooded patch near the stream, authorities discovered the body of Tracy Mosley. She had been wrapped in a blue plastic tarp, tied with basic household twine, and partially hidden under branches and forest debris. The effort to conceal her was hurried and incomplete. Tracy's identity was verified using dental records. An autopsy performed by the Ramsey County medical examiner revealed that she had died from a single blunt force blow to the head, with a fatal fracture on the left side of her skull. Additional injuries, deep bruises on her wrists and ankles, indicated she'd likely been restrained. Drag marks on her lower body suggest that she was moved after her death. Toxicology found no alcohol or sedatives in her system. With her death now confirmed as a homicide, the case returned to the St. Paul Police Department, and the focus shifted sharply back to her home. A warrant was quickly issued to search the Mosley residence on Larch Street, this time with forensic specialists in tow. Unlike the brief initial visit, this search was exhaustive. Teams combed through the interior and exterior of the home. In the trash bin behind the garage, investigators found several partially burned items: a scorched handbag, a cracked women's wristwatch, and pieces of charred clothing. These items didn't match what had been recovered from the Prius. Family members later confirmed that the handbag was one Tracy used daily. Despite fire damage, lab analysis identified synthetic fibers on the clothing remains that matched brands Tracy often wore. A strong chemical scent filled the attached garage, prompting investigators to conduct luminol testing. The test revealed faint traces of blood on the garage floor near the door to the laundry area, undetectable to the naked eye, but glowing under the chemical. Swabs were collected for testing, and the area was sealed for deeper analysis. Investigators also noted the presence of powerful cleaning agents inside the garage. Darren Mosley sat down for a second interview on October 17th. When questioned about the burned materials in the trash, he claimed he'd been getting rid of household waste days earlier and couldn't recall specific items. He continued to insist that Tracy left on her own and that he had no idea what happened. He agreed to provide a DNA sample and allowed limited access to his personal electronics, pending a formal warrant. Meanwhile, the cigarette butt found in the Prius was expedited for lab testing. The DNA profile returned showed a partial match to a male relative of Darren, and further analysis confirmed a secondary match to Darren himself. This placed him inside the vehicle more recently than he had claimed, contradicting his earlier timeline and raising suspicions about his involvement. Based on mounting inconsistencies and the physical evidence, investigators estimated that Tracy was likely killed sometime late on October 12th or during the early hours of October 13th. Her body appeared to have been driven north shortly afterward. On October 18th, police secured a warrant to search Darren Mosley's electronic devices and financial records. During a forensic review of his work-issued laptop, they found 2 encrypted folders. The names of those folders were chilling: Chicago Move and Dissolution Plan. As investigators dug deeper into the case of Tracy Mosley's death, the puzzle pieces began to fall into place, and they painted a chilling picture of premeditation and deception. Recovered files from Darren Mosley's work laptop added a disturbing layer to the story. Among them were spreadsheets and planning documents outlining potential custody arrangements, financial forecasts related to divorce, and detailed relocation logistics. One particular document, dated October 11th, focused on reducing conflict during a transition period and included notes referencing potential legal risks. Further analysis of Darren's internet history raised even more red flags. Recent searches included phrases like, "How far can a body be smelled in cold weather?" and "How to clean blood from concrete." These digital breadcrumbs suggested a level of planning that went far beyond a spontaneous act. Investigators also tracked down records from a local car rental agency. It showed that Darren had rented a black 2021 Ford Explorer on the night of October 12th at 9:42 p.m., just hours before Tracy's final text was sent. He returned the SUV early the next morning after putting nearly 200 miles on it. Authorities accessed the vehicle's built-in GPS system, which confirmed a route aligning closely with the timeline of Tracy's disappearance. GPS logs showed the Explorer returned briefly to the Mosley home at around 10 p.m., matching activity detected by external motion sensors. This visit coincided with the timestamp of Tracy's last message, sent at 10:24 p.m. Her phone would never be active again. Inside the Mosley residence, forensic teams uncovered faint blood evidence near the door between the garage and the laundry room. The traces were only visible under luminol, but DNA confirmed it belonged to Tracy. Investigators also found fibers consistent with her clothing in the same area, reinforcing the theory that a struggle had taken place there. It was determined that Tracy was likely killed between 10:30 and 11 p.m. on October 12th. The medical examiner's report confirmed a single blow to the head caused her death. Injuries to her wrists and ankles indicated she had been restrained, and bruising on her lower body suggested she was moved after death. By 11:15 p.m., Darren is believed to have wrapped Tracy's body in a blue plastic tarp and tied it with common household twine, materials that were later discovered at the scene where she was found. He placed her in the back of the Ford Explorer and left home shortly before midnight. At 1:43 a.m., GPS data showed the Explorer arrived at a secluded logging trail near Cross Lake State Park. The vehicle remained at the location for roughly 90 minutes. During that time, Darren is believed to have carried Tracy's body into the woods, placing her about 40 yards from the road and covering her with branches and debris in a hasty attempt to hide her remains. Soil and plant material found under the SUV matched samples from the location where Tracy was recovered, further tying the vehicle to the crime scene. After leaving the park, Darren returned to St. Paul, but not home. Instead, he drove Tracy's own car, a silver 2013 Toyota Prius, back to the remote logging trail. It was left parked just off the road with the driver's seat pushed far back, unusual for Tracy's height. Her purse had been placed on the front seat, and the car was left unlocked. Inside the center console, a cigarette butt tested positive for male DNA, which matched Darren's profile. Police later concluded this scene was staged to make it appear that Tracy had driven herself there and wandered off. At 4:11 a.m., GPS and rideshare data showed Darren leaving the area on foot and requesting a pickup from a rural intersection. The log recorded a pickup at 4:26 a.m. and a drop-off near a St. Paul shopping center around 6:02 a.m. Surveillance footage from a nearby business captured Darren walking toward his home just after 6:15 a.m. By 6:38 a.m., he had placed a 911 call to report Tracy missing, claiming she was gone when he woke up. Later that day, Darren returned the SUV to the rental agency. Forensic testing revealed blood traces in the cargo area, confirmed to be Tracy's, as well as soil and vegetation consistent with the Cross Lake site. The mileage, GPS data, and timeline all aligned with the suspected sequence of events. All of this evidence stood in direct contradiction to Darren's original statement. His claim that he slept through the night while Tracy left of her own accord was no longer plausible when weighed against the digital footprints, forensic results, and GPS records. Investigators also discovered that in the weeks before Tracy's death, Darren had made several payments related to a planned move to Chicago. He had secured temporary housing and coordinated job placement. As the investigation into Tracy Mosley's death deepened, more distressing details began to emerge, many pointing to a growing fear she had tried to communicate in the final days of her life. In one unsent message recovered from her email drafts, Tracy voiced a chilling concern. She believed Darren, her husband, was planning to take their daughter, Layla, out of the state without her. Friends and colleagues later corroborated that Tracy had appeared increasingly anxious in the days leading up to her disappearance. Two co-workers recalled her sharing fears that Darren was secretly making arrangements behind her back. As part of the digital forensics investigation, analysts examined Tracy's smartphone and managed to recover deleted files. Among them was a voice memo, time-stamped at 9:58 p.m. on October 12th, the same night she was last seen. The audio clip was brief but revealing. "He's made up his mind. If something happens, I didn't leave." Although the file had been deleted, forensic tools allowed it to be restored. Authorities viewed it as a powerful indication that Tracy felt threatened and wanted to leave behind a record that she had no plans to disappear voluntarily. Further analysis of her Gmail account uncovered additional clues. Several draft emails addressed to a local family law attorney were still saved in her account, although never sent. One read, "He wants to take Layla and move. I won't let that happen." Another draft included questions about how to file for emergency custody and temporary restraining orders. Metadata confirmed that these messages were composed between October 9th and 11th, just days before her death. At the accounting firm where Tracy worked, co-workers confirmed she had been visibly shaken. One colleague recalled a conversation on October 10th in which Tracy confided, "He's already talking about leaving with her. I don't think he's waiting for lawyers." Others remembered her researching legal aid services and reviewing custody forms she had printed out at work. While she had not yet filed formal paperwork, she appeared to be taking the first steps toward legal action. Back at the Mosley home, investigators found packaging remnants in the garage, tags, wrappers, and a crumpled receipt. These were later linked to the same materials used in the concealment of Tracy's body, including a blue polyethylene tarp and twine. Investigators traced the items to a regional hardware store. Surveillance footage from October 11th at 6:47 p.m. showed Darren Mosley entering the store alone. He purchased tarp, binding rope, industrial-strength cleaning chemicals, and a box of nitrile gloves. He paid in cash and did not use any form of membership or loyalty program, presumably to avoid tracking. That receipt was later found discarded in the family's trash, its timestamp matching the store footage exactly. Every item purchased was consistent with the materials found at both the crime scene and the wooded location where Tracy's body was discovered. Phone records also offered insight into Darren's activities leading up to the incident. Investigators noticed a spike in communication between Darren and a colleague from the Windmere Equity Chicago office, 35-year-old Kimria Jarrett. The two exchanged multiple texts and calls in early October. Most of these messages had been deleted, but forensic recovery pulled two fragments dated October 11th. One read, "It's almost done." The other, even more ominous, "She just needs to disappear quietly." Jared was questioned in connection with the case. She denied involvement in Tracy's death and stated that all communications with Darren were work-related. She did confirm being aware of Darren's plans to transfer to Chicago, but claimed no knowledge of his personal situation. Her whereabouts were verified through hotel records, corporate conference logs, and surveillance footage placing her in downtown Chicago during the days in question. Investigators found no evidence linking her to the crime, and she was cleared of suspicion. On November 3, 2022, police arrested Darren Mosley at his workplace in downtown St. Paul. He was taken into custody without incident and charged with second-degree murder, obstruction of justice, and evidence tampering. The arrest came after detectives compiled a thorough case report, which was submitted to the Ramsey County Attorney's Office for review and formal charges. Within a week, the case was presented to a grand jury. Jurors were shown the body of evidence: GPS data from the rented Ford Explorer, DNA from the cigarette found in Tracy's Prius, cleaning agent residue in the Mosley garage, purchase receipts, deleted messages, and, perhaps most haunting of all, Tracy's final voice recording, her last attempt to leave behind the truth. The judge spoke to a troubling trend, one where domestic violence is increasingly disguised as a missing person case. The court noted that such acts often arise from situations involving disputes over children or finances and are carried out under the illusion of a voluntary disappearance. Darren Mosley's case, the judge said, was a clear example of this pattern. Prosecutors had maintained from the start that Darren's motive was rooted in a desire to avoid the fallout of a contentious divorce, both emotionally and financially. He sought to prevent any legal battle over custody of his daughter Layla while keeping control over their shared assets. According to the prosecution, this wasn't a crime of passion, it was calculated. In the days before Tracy Mosley's death, Darren had prepared extensively. Evidence shown during the trial included digital documents outlining relocation plans, projections about custody outcomes, and even purchases of materials used in the concealment of her body. These included industrial-strength cleaning products, tarp, and rope, all of which were tied to the disposal site and recovered from the Mosley residence. Prosecutors argued that Darren carefully staged the aftermath of Tracy's death to look like she had left of her own accord. The goal was to eliminate her from his life and secure full custody of their daughter, while delaying suspicion long enough to cover his tracks. After the verdict was announced, Tracy's family held a quiet memorial service. They chose not to speak publicly and declined all interview requests from the media. Her daughter Layla, just 8 years old at the time of the murder, was placed in the long-term care of her aunt Jasmine Riley. A family court formalized the custody arrangement shortly after the criminal proceedings ended. All legal documents and records concerning Layla's care remain sealed in accordance with state child protection laws. Darren Mosley's employer, Windmere Equity, released a short statement following the trial's conclusion. The investment firm confirmed that Darren's employment had been officially terminated on the day the guilty verdict was read. The statement noted that he had been on administrative leave since his arrest, and that his conduct did not reflect the values or expectations of the organization. As for the home on Lark Street, once the family residence and the site of the crime, it was repossessed by the mortgage lender in March 2023. Public listings soon followed, though no mention was made of the property's history. Still, the address was widely recognized due to earlier media coverage. Tracy's personal items, which had been held as part of the investigation, were returned to her family once forensic processing was complete. In April 2023, Tracy's name was officially added to the Minnesota Intimate Partner Violence Fatality Registry, maintained by the state's Department of Public Safety. This registry documents confirmed cases of fatal domestic violence and serves as a resource for policy development, community education, and prevention initiatives. Her case has already been referenced in discussions around improving early intervention in domestic situations, particularly those involving custody and power dynamics. As of May 2023, Darren Mosley has not filed an appeal. According to official court records, no notice of appeal was submitted during the 90-day post-sentencing window allotted for such filings. He has since been transferred to a state correctional facility located outside of Minneapolis, where he began serving his sentence under standard custody classification. With his conviction for second-degree murder, Darren is not eligible for parole or supervised release until 2051. The investigation into Tracy's death has been formally closed. It is now classified as a resolved homicide with one convicted offender and no additional suspects. While the legal chapter may be over, the broader conversation around domestic violence and early warning signs continues, fueled in part by cases like Tracy Mosley's, which highlight the urgent need for awareness, resources, and timely intervention.